You are in a place where Tipu Sultan and Savarkar are two of the very controversial, most controversial figures. What are your first impressions when you landed in Kerala? What kind of reception you expected?
No, I had no such expectations for or against, but I've had a wonderful experience at the festival. I think a literature festival like this, which Mathrubhumi is doing, should have multiple voices, and literature needs to have dissent, discussion, debates, and fact-based discussions. History is not rhetoric; it is something that is fact-based. So, in my books, whether it is on Savarkar or now on Tipu Sultan, I bring the facts to the table as a historian. And it is up to the people to make up their mind as to which way their opinion moves. So I've had a lovely experience here, to be honest, at the Mathrubhumi festival, and very patient audience who heard a lot. I signed so many books, so it was. I think it exceeded my expectations of what I was looking forward to here.
You know, one of the most controversial campaigns of Tipu Sultan were in Kerala.
Yes.
In fact, he suffered an injury while
Yes.
he was attacking Travancore at a place
Nedumkotta.
called Nedumkotta in Parvur.
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts on his Kerala expedition?
Yeah, the Malabar, especially North
Yeah.
Kerala, the kind of atrocities that both Hyder Ali, his father, and Tipu also, conducted. Whether all those 5 principalities which were there, Chirakkal, Kottayam, Vatakara, then Palghat, and Kozhikode. Especially Kozhikode, the kind of tortures that people, face there, these are documented in his own letters, which Tipu writes to several people. He gloats to one of his commanders that 4 lakh infidels or kafirs have been converted to Islam, and temples and churches being destroyed there. Anybody who did not belong to his faith. Almost for 4 or 5 years, the Padayota Kalam that you spoke about, many writers in Kerala, Sridhar Menon and others, have written of what the long-term implications of that was for Kerala. Peasants running away into forests and mountains, and thereby agriculture suffering, social cohesion disrupted, a lot of economic hardships people faced, in addition to destruction to their lives and properties, their places of worship, their women and children. So these are all documented, some in Tipu's own writings. There is no scope for ambiguity because he is himself writing about it, and you're talking the horse coming straight from the horse's mouth. So I've quoted those in my book, thereafter, as you rightly said, his Padayota Kalam was halted at Travancore, where at Nedumkotta he literally falls off his palanquin and hurts his leg, and till the end of his life he always has a limp because of that injury that he faces there. I think that put a halt to his victory streak after the second Anglo-Mysore war, and then one after the other. After that you had the third Anglo-Mysore war, where he loses half his kingdom, he gives away his sons as hostages to the British, and the fourth Anglo-Mysore war in Srirangpatna, where he is killed. So Travancore, it's a very important place. We are having this discussion from Thiruvananthapuram, where Travancore was the place which gave a halt to the unbridled forces and victories of the Sultan of Mysore.
Tipu Sultan, he has destroyed many temples in Kerala,
Yeah.
as you points out in your book.
Yeah.
But there are also narratives that says he donated generously to temples like Guruvayur and
Yeah.
Mokambika temple.
See, it is very funny because on the one hand we know, as a Keralite, you would know that Guruvayur temple also he wanted to demolish, and that's why they got to know in advance, and so the deity was taken away from there and kept in this temporary shelter called Ambalapula.
Yeah.
And even now people go and worship that because this temporarily Guruvayurappan was here. So if he wanted to demolish, how he was giving grant to a temple he wanted to demolish, right? So there is documentation and oral literature about it, that there was one guy called Hydros Kutti, who was actually a chela, convert chela during Hyder's time, who was probably had that affinity for his parent religion still, and he prevented the destruction of the temple by ensuring that it doesn't come under Tipu's axe. So many of these grants that people talk of, they were carryovers from Hyder's time. They are not anything new that he gave. Some were also, Tipu was also extremely superstitious because he had such an uncertain life, everyday war, everyday something. So he used to rely on all these astrology, several of those things, and the astrologers would tell some pariharam, if you have this dosham, you go and do this pariharam in that temple, this temple. So as part of that also, some of the, what is given as grants, those are his personal pujas that he used to get done at several places. So new temples constructed and all that is not a fact. But in fact, a journalist in Kerala called Tirur Dinesh, he has documented all the temples that were destroyed, which have the symbols of that are still there. There is a beheaded Nandi in front of one temple, the marks on the Shivalingam from the sword and so on, which the forces of Mysore inflicted. All those are live examples which are still there today for people to see. So you can't deny the facts of history, which are screaming to tell the truth.
No, we were a generation that was brought upon Tipu Sultan's sword, you know, that television serial. And if you read the book, it's completely debunked. He's a kind of an idiot, a person who was not well liked by his father for his indiscretions.
Yeah.
He was even thought to be an idiot by Hyder.
Yes.
That's what you write.
Yes.
And this kind of superstitious guy.
See, that serial was based on a work called The Sword of Tipu Sultan by Bhagwan S. Gidwani as a work of fiction. It is not a historical account. There are no sources and references. As a fiction, a historical fiction, I can write anything. But as a serious historian, academically trained historian, my role is to bring the archives to light, what the documents say. There the picture is very different. So when Tipu died, I mean, in his palace, they found an agreement which the British have documented. 8 articles where as a son he's saying, I will not commit theft, I will not speak lies, I will not do this, if I do this you can kill me. To his father, he's giving a commitment with his sign. So that is a live example, a document to show that the father did not think too highly of the son. And Hyder in numerous times has said, what all I have built with so much of hard work, this son of mine will squander it away because of his lack of strategy. And the turn of events was proof to that. I mean, not a single war against the British Tipu actually won. In the third Anglo-Mysore War, he lost. The fourth Anglo-Mysore War, he was killed. The second Anglo-Mysore War, he fought under the leadership of Hyder, and in places like the Battle of Pollilur against Bailey and Hector Munro, he scripted victories. But still, the father was the bigger figure who was overseeing that. So independently, there was not much victories that he gained, especially against the British. Initially, there were 1782 he comes to the throne. He ends the second Anglo-Mysore War in a very heroic way, the Treaty of Mangalore, which he signs. Then subsequently 2-3 wars, against the Marathas. There is a Treaty of Gajendragad, which he signs, victoriously against the Marathas. But as I said, the victory march, the juggernaut stops at Travancore. And that is where the downfall begins. And after that, he's been making a lot of, one after the other. It's like a Greek tragedy, going till the time he has nobody to support him. Everyone have gone against him. And he's all alone defending his fort, and that's how he dies anonymously. Even the British don't know that they've killed, the Sultan of Mysore. His body is found amidst a heap of dead bodies, which the British discover by chance at the end of the day when they go on a search party. So it's a very also a tragic story towards the end, but it gives us an important lesson that Hyder built this kingdom rags to riches, with all his hard work, with some of cunningness, stealth, all of which was necessary to build a empire. He did that, and that was given on a silver platter to his son. Now, the son, because of his arrogance or his lack of strategy,
maybe
intelligence also, and this very whimsical nature, squandered it all off. And how even if you get something inherited from your father, the fact that unless you have the tact to preserve it, you can lose everything. So Tipu is a classic example of that very fact.
Tipu is pictured as a very courageous, lion-hearted person.
I always say that there's no true ways that he was a brave man, very, very courageous soldier. He fought all the time. Nobody can deny that at all. He was a brave soldier. The innovations he did to the Mysore army, including trying to start a navy, which his father had also begun with the help of the French. Then these Mysore rockets that they designed with iron casings. It was already in existence, the rockets. Father and son improvised on it and made it a very important weapon in the army. The administrative units also, and the army units being redesigned, all that he did. So there is no two ways that he was a brave soldier. But bravery alone is not necessary that enough to win a war. You need tact, you need strategy, you need how to make strategic alliances against your enemy. Those things he sadly lacked. And the usual this thing that people say that he was a freedom fighter, you know,
against the British.
against the British. So first of all, the same people also say that there was no country called India till the British came and unified us. So if there was no India, what freedom of which country is he fighting for? You know, you can't have it both ways, that you say this also and that also. He fought bravely, just as he was fighting against the other forces of the time, Marathas, Nizam, Travancore. He was fighting with all of them. So British were just yet another pawn in that chessboard of 18th century. And he was fighting to save his own life, his honor, his family, his kingdom. Not with some larger this thing that, you know, India should be free, and that's all a little exaggeration. And he was actually, to fight the British, he was taking the help of the French. And the French were no less colonial than the British.
Yeah.
So if by some strange stroke of luck, if he had won, then India would have become a French colony, or Mysore would have become a French colony. And he was also, you know, allying with foreign Muslim powers, the larger Ummah, the Muslim Brotherhood, whether it is the Ottoman Caliph or Zaman Shah of Afghanistan, inviting them to invade India and establish an Islamic Sultanate. So if he had won, either we would have become a French colony or an Islamic nation. So this whole idea of building him up as a freedom fighter, just because he fought against the British. So like that, at that stage, if you say there was no concept of nationhood at all, then it doesn't reconcile these two descriptions.
How communal he was.
Extremely, I mean, and these don't need me to tell, it is written in his own writings. The good part or the bad part for Tipu Sultan is that he was very, very well educated, and he used to write and write and write copiously. He wrote in Persian. He never wrote in the local Kannada language at all, a lot in Persian. And whether it is letters to his commanders, or what all dreams he used to get, he used to jot down every morning, you know, what dream he saw in the previous night. All of that are also full of, you know, violence and hatred for the kafir, for the infidel. And in every letter, even to all these outside, you know, kingdoms, the Ottoman Sultan or anybody else, he's saying, I am the true, the defender of the true faith, and I want to establish the, you know, true faith against the infidels or the kafirs. The sword also has the inscription which says, this sword will drench itself in the blood of kafirs. And very, you know, with lot of glee he gloats that in Calicut I have converted 4 lakh infidels, in somewhere else I have killed so many. So Hindus and Christians, both were his target, whether it was in Canara, Mangalore area, the Canara Christians who faced all the trouble against him. They still have those wounds even now. 27 churches in Mangalore were destroyed, and in Kerala thousands of temples. And in within Mysore too, the Mandya Mayangars who were killed on the eve of Deepavali, on Naraka Chaturdashi, even to this day that community does not celebrate, you know, Diwali. And in Kodagu or Coorg, you have the brave Kodavas, again like the Nayars and the Thiyas in Malabar. They also gave a strong resistance to him. So there also, their places of worship, their people. In one of his letters to his commander called Zainul Abidin Shustri, he says not only the living but even the dead Kurgis have to be converted. So dead bodies circumcised and converted. So you can imagine, I mean, but this is the best part, is all of it is written by him. How do you deny something written by your own subject? We cannot say, oh, this is white, you know, demonizing him. No, stating it as it is. You see, itihasa or history, it's a Sanskrit word. The literal meaning in English is it thus happened. This happened in this way. So the documents are proving it, screaming from rooftops that this is how it was. And in his library also, after his death, people saw so many books about jihad, about what the military treatise was called Fathul Mujahideen. Today we know what a Mujahideen is. It's a, you know, religious Ghazi or a warrior for the holy war of jihad. These were written in his own, you know, these are books that he wrote or sponsored and, you know, kept in his library. So it's very, very clear what his intention was. Very early in life, I think he got exposed to a lot of bigotry. And somewhere with all these missions that went to the Middle East, he was also, I think, deeply influenced by the Wahhabi ideology that had just begun there in the Middle East. So all those influences we see in him. In contrast, Hyder Ali was not, he was a cruel man as all other kings were, but so much of identification or consciousness about religion was not there with him. Even the British write that there's a German missionary who comes to Hyder's palace called Schwartz, and he interviews several people and all that, and he says he doesn't care. He allowed me to do my Sunday mass sermons and all of these. He doesn't care what religion people follow as long as he has power. But this man, along with that craving for power, there was also that my religion is the best and that has to be established, and anyone who doesn't follow this have to be killed or converted forcefully.
Not much about the destruction he havoc in Malabar.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little?
Yeah, there are a long list of temples, which a lot. I also took, the support of someone like Dinesh's book that he has written, Kerala temples, what happened to them. And some of the contemporary writings are there of those times and also later. So the Padayotta Kalam that was there, it was a reign of terror in all of, especially North Kerala, Malabar, where demographic changes, the conversions to Mapillas, which happened at that time. And as I said, destruction of local economy, agriculture, temples, everything, churches also being destroyed. So many of the Jesuit missionaries also, Bartholomew and others, have written as to how, especially in Calicut, which bore the maximum brunt. Thousands of families then used to run away to Travancore, to this part of Kerala, to get shelter because the north was closer to Mysore borders. And Bartholomew writes about how women used to be hung to the trees. First their babies killed in front of them and hung to their necks, and then the women hung along with their dead babies. Now these are all blood curdling kind of incidents which are documented by the contemporaries of that time. Similarly, the Canara Christians, I mean, there are gruesome accounts of some of the survivors, their memoirs, some of the English prisoners who were in the Srirangpatna dungeons, Canara Christians being asked to, some dragged to the feet of elephants from Mangalore to Srirangpatna, about 300 kilometers. Pregnant women also made to march, many of them delivering babies on the way, either the mother or the child, dying on the way because of the strain, and not even good funeral arrangements. Wolves and jackals and dogs are feeding on the corpses. So all, and if they come to Srirangpatna, and then if you don't convert, your nose and lips are cut off and you're paraded on donkeys in the capital. So all these are documented evidences which are talking to us. So to just deny all of that and say all of it is false, then what is the truth supposedly, and what is that based on? Everything cannot be dismissed as this is exaggerated or that is exaggerated. Without fire there can be no smoke. So I think particularly it's a travesty that the part which faced so much atrocity, Kerala, and the communities, the Nayars, the Thiyas, others who faced that brunt, today they are also supporting this person and saying, that, see, I have nothing against Tipu Sultan. My only issue is, can you valorize somebody who has committed so many atrocities? He is an indispensable part of history. I don't, when the BJP was in power in my state in Karnataka, they said we should remove him from the textbook. You can't remove away, that's a foolish argument, because you can't wish away your past just because you don't like somebody. He's a part of the history. As I said, he was a brave soldier, gave a lot of resistance to the British, though he never won a war against them. His father, managed to script great victories against the British, but at the end of the day, the social report card which is there is very troublesome. And we can say all kings were violent at that time, or they were cruel, but some were more cruel than the other, and that cruelty coming only from religion and religious identity, that is actually can be defined as genocide, because that is how the United Nations Convention on Genocide actually says if you're targeting a group based on their race, their color, their religion and all that, that is what is termed as genocide. So that targeted targeted killings of people is something that he committed. So, and as I said, this is not some old atrocity which no one remembers. When the Canara Christians or the Kodavas, to this day on 12th December every year, they commemorate that as Martyrs' Day, because that's when hundreds and people of Kodava community were killed at this place called Devatiparam in Coorg. Similarly, the anger in Nayars, in the Malayalam, this one group, In fact, when the sword of Tipu Sultan was coming, I think there was a lot of protests by the Bombay Malayalam Sangam and others who wrote to the then INB minister to say, show the truth as it is. You can't valorize someone like this, because these memories are still there. Those people are still not celebrating Diwali. So that sort of thing, when it is there, so don't valorize and have a Tipu Jayanti in his honor. So someday.
It's in the state?
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah, so just for contemporary politics. So someday are you going to like have a Hitler Jayanti, General Dyer, who did very similar to what Tipu did when he killed the Mande Mayengar, 700 men, women, children invited to a temple for a feast, and while they were eating, the doors are closed and elephants are set loose to trample them all to death. So someone like that, it is very difficult to have, you have a birth anniversary celebrations. Let him be a part of history books, the good, the bad. He had many good qualities, as I said, in administration, in agricultural reforms, giving interest-free loans to farmers to cultivate their land, created a big market for Mysore products, ivory and sandalwood and all, pearls from Mysore being sold in Oman and Muscat and the Middle East. All that is there, and militarily he made Mysore army strong. These rockets were developed. But the social report card, as I constantly say, how do communities even today remember, Tipu? The Kodavas, if you go and talk to them, they will hurl the worst of invectives against him. In several parts of Coorg, street dogs are named after this person. So I think today when we talk of celebrating or denigrating members, elements of the past, we need to keep in mind sensitivities of communities today and how they connect to this past and what happened with them.
Kerala, a large section of the people call Savarkar as bootlicker, shoe naki, shoe worker. That's the kind of terms used for Savarkar. So you wrote a 2-volume book on Savarkar. And, what was your objective in writing that book?
Because he's a very, again, like Tipu Sultan, he's a very enigmatic figure. He means many things to many people. And as a historian, I think there are multiple perspectives in history, in writing about any person. So each person looks at it through the available sources and which is there with them, and then brings out a story. So when it comes to Savarkar also, I know those mercy petitions and all are spoken about a lot. But I've explained in fact, all the petitions are put in the appendix to my book. It's not as if something is being hidden. But was it something that was a privilege only given to him? A lot of revolutionaries who were jailed in Kalapani, in Port Blair, it was a common agency. So people like Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, or Sachindranath Sanyal, or Barin Ghosh, Aurobindo Ghosh's brother, they also wrote petitions. And so writing a petition today, just like you write bail application or parole you seek, that's how they gave the freedom to political prisoners to write. And in some of his petitions, for instance, he also seems like a spokesperson for the other revolutionaries. In his 1917 petition, he says, if my name constitutes a barrier in the release of all the other political prisoners, you remove my name and release the others, and that will give me as much happiness as my own release would do. So somewhere he was also acting as a spokesperson for them. And it is, he got the maximum punishment of 2 transportations for life, which is 25 plus 25, 50 years in most inhuman conditions in Kalapani, where, even food and toilet facilities, nothing given. People are defecating and urinating in their cells, and standing handcuffs for 6 months, solitary confinement. You have that, the Koluka Bail punishment, where you're going in the hot sun of Port Blair, going round and round that machine to draw oil. In that, what is the point of suffering there? You tell something and come out, and then, work for the national cause, which is what Savarkar did.
You are being accused of bias, a kind of Sanghi. Are you a Sanghi?
I have no clue I've not gone to a single RSS Shakha. I don't know what happens in a Shakha. So these days, that's what, it's very easy to put label on someone, refute the things on facts. First you put a label on someone, then the entire body of work of that person is discredited. Me nor my family, we have no association with the RSS or even the BJP, and I have no political ambitions at all. I am a scholar who is interested in evaluating the past from the sources that I have access to. Inherent bias is there in every work of history. Nobody can say anything is an unbiased opinion. There is some amount of bias that will creep in, which also is the availability of sources. How much is available, based on that a historian approaches a subject. So I think works of history should be evaluated on the merit of the content, rather than get into tags for the person who writes it, or make these ad hominem attacks, that you are this, you are that, and so on. In this Tipu Sultan book, about 150 pages are end notes, citations and footnotes, bibliography. That means that amount of work has gone into it. So where does Sangh or left and all of this come in that? I have, as I said, no interest in what the left or the right talks, or what the RSS or the CPM think of each other. That's their fight on the electoral battle on the social and cultural field. But for me, as an honest historian, it is to look at the facts as they are and bring it to the public in a manner that is also interesting and inspiring for them.
The left liberals say it is people like you, Vikram Sampath ji, Sai Deepak, people like you, initiated a kind of a Hindu revivalism in India.
They attribute a lot of greatness to us, and I'm very flattered to know that we have such power. If it is, why not? I mean, a very famous historian had said every work of history is an interim report. Everybody is trying to revise history all the time. Historical revisionism is not a bad word, as long as it is based on facts. If it is rhetoric or politics that is determining that, then it's a different issue. Whether it is Sai Deepak or Anand Ranganathan or Sanjeev Sanyal and several others who are working on issues of history, all of us are basing our work on research and on facts. When you don't have answers to those, then you make personal attacks on the person, so that you can discredit their entire body of work. So I think there is an awareness that is spreading among people today, and we are seeing a manifestation of that in the way the politics of India is also shaping. So there is a need, there is a hunger, and all of us, me included, we talk so much to young people all over India in lectures and literature festivals. There is that hunger to know the truth as to something that had been hidden away, or something that had been suppressed or distorted and told to you. So let all versions come out, let 1,000 flowers bloom, as Mao had said once, and communists should encourage that 1,000 flowers should bloom, lots of opinions should flourish. Then don't infantilize the reader. They are intelligent enough. Who has written what is propaganda, what is based on sources and fact. They are intelligent enough to catch that. Just like that, like a Pied Piper, you can't take all the mice to its destruction. I'm sure they're all reading it and making their assessment, and some don't like what we write, some like what we like. That is perfectly fine. You read everything and still stick to your opinion, perfectly okay. But let your hatred or your love for somebody be informed, informed love, informed hatred, not rhetorical or preconceived, notions.
You used to write biographies of great musicians. Why the shift from music to historiography?
I mean, that was also history. I've written only 2 biographies of musicians. One was Gohar Jan, who was India's first artist to record her voice on the gramophone. And another, very funnily, on Veena Vidwan S. Balachandar, who refuted that Swati Tirunal was not even a historical figure. And I think he got a lot of flack for that. So, for me, interesting lives are what are, and I feel motivated to research about, whether it was Gohar, whether it was Balachandar, Savarkar, Tipu. Finally, they are all works of history, but interesting characters who defied their times, or who are much, maligned or misunderstood or forgotten. Gohar, for all her greatness, nobody today in India, till my book came out, nobody knew that there was someone like this. And she heralded the whole technology revolution of recording on the gramophone first in 1902. Similarly, Balachandar, for all his, battles he had with the royal family in Travancore, he was a self-taught musician, someone who way ahead of his times, taught himself the veena, created this Balachandar Bani for playing the veena. He taught himself chess. He was among the pioneers of Tamil cinema, teaching himself the art of filmmaking, making these Agatha Christie kind of, very nice thriller movies in Tamil at a time when all mythologies, etc. were being made. So very interesting figures, and similarly Savarkar too. So I don't look at it as political or music or whatever. They are interesting lives, and a historian who looks back at the past of people and their lives, these become interesting, non-monochromatic kind of characters who give you a lot of insight. And all those books too, I don't look at it only as a biography or a life story of one person. Through biography becomes a window to look at the times. All biographies have this subtitle, life and times of so and so. So life is important, the times also is important. So in all my books, how was the society at that time? What was the politics of that time? How did society influence my protagonist? And how did my protagonist alter or change the times? These are all things that I deal with all my books. So for me, I don't see any change in the manner or the stories. I wrote one now on Brave Hearts of Bharat, which are about 15 unsung heroes and heroines from all over India. Yeah. Now the history of India is always seen only as the history of Delhi. Delhi-centric history. South India, where we all come from, is hardly covered in our books. So in this, people like Martanda Varma from Travancore, Abbakka Rani from my state in Karnataka, Velu Nachiyar from Tamil Nadu, Rudrama Devi in Warangal, all these people are also covered. And women's stories don't come out. So in that book, I've actually covered 7 women and 8 kings, all of whom gave resistance to invasions and so on. So I think these are the kind of, I don't see any change of track. It's just been interesting lives which attract me.
How do you work on your book? What a kind of taskmaster you are when it comes to facts?
Very much. And that's why each book takes me 4 or 5 years to write.
5 years?
Yeah.
How many hours you work a day?
There's no fixed amount, but when the flow comes, it can go on for 12-13 hours. Okay. So I'll be...
At a switch?
Yeah, very easily. So yeah, maybe I'll fit into Mr. Narayan Murthy's time scale of working 70 hours a week or maybe 90 hours
90
as the
yeah.
L&T person said. I don't have a wife to stare at, so I can write much more. So yeah, when it seizes you, you're literally, obsessed with this thing. And a book doesn't come only while sitting and no longer write, but typing it on this one. As part of your research, chapters are just forming in your head because you're all the time gathering new information, jotting it down, cataloging facts, making notes and, archive. So that's how the book progresses. And before you realize, my God, it's run into 900 pages and it's quite a bulky book.
Yeah, almost all your books are quite a tome.
Yeah, they can be used even as dumbbells during the COVID lockdown.
What's your next book?
Right now I'm taking a break. I've actually established an institution called the Foundation for Indian Historical and Cultural Research, FIHCR, and that is to foster new scholarship in Indian history. So as part of FIHCR, we are giving a scholarship in the name of Sir Jadunath Sarkar, the famous nationalist historian who was forgotten. 8 scholars have been selected. They're given a stipend to bring out a publish-worthy manuscript at the end of 1 year. So that is one thing that the foundation does. We are also incubating research projects in universities. We're doing one with the Nalanda University on the history of Buddhism in India, which will come out as a 4-volume series book. Then we have another vertical in FIHCR called Yuva, where we want to take history to young children and young adults, 6 to 12, 12 to 18 years of age, and make Indian history interesting, exciting and inspiring for them. In the language they understand, maybe, animation videos, whatever else, Instagram reels, whatever. It should not be about WhatsApp history. It should be meticulously researched work which is accessible also to young children. So we're doing a plethora using new technology like AI and VR, virtual reality, how to make history interesting for children. All of this we're working on. I have a team of about 8 people who are working with me on this. And so that keeps me extremely busy now, more than my own books and limited only to my writing. I think there's a larger social cause of how history should become a people's movement, because it's too important a subject just to be relegated to some people. It is a mirror in which we can identify ourselves as a nation, as a civilization and as a people. And so it belongs to every Indian, every Bharatiya. And so a renaissance in Indian history writing is what, in a small way, FIHCR is trying to do. So that is my full-time occupation now, in addition to my own works and book. Thank you so much. Thank you.